Hi, friends, and welcome back to Podcast Party. For this week's Midweek Moxie, we have Michael Lounsbury. So excited to have you on here today. Thank you for
Yes,
coming
thank
on and
you.
joining. You're my first male Midweek Moxie. So that's fun. I am so excited to have you on here because you recently won the best of in Spartanburg. So do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you do in your business?
Yeah, sure. So I am the owner of PeopleOps Advisors. So we are a nationwide HR consulting firm for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and nonprofits. So normally where we hang our hat is for those companies that maybe can't afford HR or don't know where to begin. So I'll go in there and create from the ground up. I'll show the owners how to implement, and then normally I get out because I don't want to keep in there as an overhead. So everything's tailored, it's all specific. I've been in 27 different industries. I've done union, non-union. Obviously, I started my career in the military and then got out. So, yeah, that's a little bit briefly about People Ops and what we do.
Very cool. So if you were to give us like your aha moment, do you have one or what sparked the idea? Was it a slow build? Like what kind of got you off the ground?
I would say it was probably a slow build. So when I got out of the army, I didn't know what I wanted to do. The first time I realized I was actually doing HR was in the military. I found out I was colorblind when I went
Oh,
in.
wow.
I was originally supposed to go special forces and found I was colorblind, and they said absolutely not. And I was homeless at the time, and they said, "Well, you got three options: you can be supply, cook, or HR." And I realized I really liked HR. So when I got out, I was like, "I'll give this a shot." However, when I got out in 2017, I'm 6'7", and I was a recently separated Army veteran, and everyone just made the assumption that I would not be empathetic. I wouldn't know how to talk to people. I wouldn't be good with people.
Hmm.
So anyway, got out, and over the course of the next 7 years and four companies, I went from HR generalist all the way up to chief human resource officer for a medical staffing company. And I realized I hated corporate America and I wanted to make a difference. And so that's when I started People Ops Advisors.
That's really cool. I love that. So what was the first step you did to get off the ground? So you were like, okay, I'm really good at HR. I know what I want. I like talking to people. What were you like, okay, this is my first step to getting there?
So actually, it was from my last position as a chief human resource officer. They pulled me in. They had no HR. They were grossing 30 mil a year, and they're like, "Hey, we don't have anything. Can you come in and implement something and create it?" So I did, and that's when I realized, oh my goodness, if I can do this for them, then I can do this everywhere else and be my own boss and make my own money. And that was kind of where the build started. Obviously, being in South Carolina and the upstate specifically, it's really a lot about relational equity, so that's what it was about, was building those relationships at the beginning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, walk us through your typical day if you have one of those. Like, what is something that you did beginning and in the middle and the end?
So typical day in any industry, any job is there is none, right? It changes, especially in HR. But recently, I actually just separated and started the new typical day routine. So I get up at 5, I do my devotional, then I do an hour of social media prep, then I do an hour of workout, then I do an hour of work. I'm also in school full time right now, so I go to school. Then I get out and do schoolwork, and then I'm also working on launching a course, doing a platform for speaking, and then I have networking events, client meetings, and then just normal work as well. So that's kind of the normal check off that I have, and then other things kind of vary in there.
Wow, you're a busy beaver. 5 a.m. The sun isn't out at 5 a.m. yet, so
No,
you're
so
ready
does
to
that.
rock and roll. That's good. I think that's really that's an impressive skill to have. I think a lot of people should work better at getting up early and starting their day earlier. You have a lot more time to do things.
Exactly.
So, if you could say that there's one task you'd never delegate because you love it too much, what would that be?
It's gonna sound really like cliche and cheesy, but I love writing employee handbooks.
Okay.
That's something I'll never delegate. Everything is tailored and specific. There's no boilerplate. So that's probably something I will never delegate, just because that's really my baby, I guess, so to say. But I really enjoy creating handbooks from the ground up.
That's really fun. Yeah. We're finished Corey just finished up our ones for Crown and Bloom, and it can be tedious, but I would say that it can be very fun to tailor it to each specific
Mhm.
business. So then what's been the most surprising skill you've had to learn as a business owner?
I would say marketing. So I didn't realize the importance of social media. Then I went to a seminar and realized really what ripple effects that has. And so I kind of followed it and I found the algorithm and I realized just what change that was. But I also realized people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Where did you learn to do all of this?" So I would definitely say probably social media marketing would be a surprise that I didn't think or ever want to do. Necessary evil, but it's a good lesson and it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, you're definitely not the first person to say marketing. I would say majority of the people that I talk to have no idea how much work goes into marketing, and they're like, "Social media is not that big of a deal." And I'm like, "Yes, it is. If you wanna grow, because unfortunately there's only so many people you can talk to in a day or in a week, right? Like, you have
Right.
those connections and you can go out and meet people and network. However, social media is your biggest way to grow your presence because you're able to reach so many different communities and different people across the world. So I can see why that would be your biggest, I guess, skill
Yes.
to learn. What would then
Agree.
pivoting from that, what's your biggest win so far and the moment you thought to yourself, this is really working?
Biggest win. Probably I landed a client that had multiple locations in multiple states. And landing that client at first was daunting because, again, they didn't have any HR and there's different compliance and state regulations, especially in this industry specifically. But once I won them, it was kind of that, okay, this is no longer just a pipe dream. This is no longer something that just is sitting in the back of my head, but this is something that I'm rolling out, across multiple states.
That's really cool. How many clients would you say you have? Now?
So normally I keep around 2 to 3 active, but in
Okay,
the past, we'll say 8 months, I've had 17, but a lot of them are project based. So once they
gotcha.
get their project, they're done.
What is a challenge or a failure that has taught you something crucial?
So at the beginning, being a business owner, you just want clients. You don't care what that looks like. You'll take anybody, but also you undervalue yourself. So you kind of underpriced everything and you're borderline doing it for free. So when I first started out, and I mean, I was grossly undervaluing my time. Like I averaged it out and I was making like $8 an hour for the work that I was doing. But that's again because I was trying to establish credibility in the community and what I was doing. So I would say that's probably the number one where I was like, that's something that I should not have done because then when you want to work with those clients again or friends of those clients, that expectation is, hey, this is where his pricing is.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So then what would be a piece of advice that you would give yourself for day one, knowing what you know today?
Man, I would just say start sooner. I think a lot of times business owners wait for that perfect moment, that perfect timing in order to get started because they think that that's going to happen. However, I can promise you it's not, right? Finances are going to be a problem. Life is going to life. You're going to have, kids and significant others and family and just your car breaks down and there's just always all these excuses and I understand it being prepared to an extent, but at the same time I would just say I would have started sooner and just been like, hey, I'm gonna mess up along the way anyway. Might as well start now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in life wish they had started sooner and then they look back, they're like, man, I could have done a lot more with this. So then within you being in South Carolina, specifically upstate, how has that shaped your specific business and how you work?
So I moved from Asheville, North Carolina last June, and I that's where my business actually started. However, there's a very big difference between the demographic in Asheville and the demographic in the upstate. Again, I would say here it's more relational. Like people have to know you, trust you, see what you're doing for the community, see what your morals are, see what your ethics are, what you believe in, because they're not just going to hire you just because. And we all know from a psychological standpoint that people do business based on feelings more than facts a lot of the time. So that's why that relational equity standpoint is so important here. So just the hub of Spartanburg and the upstate of small business support and encouragement, that has been imperative in how I have grown and launched and just my approach to business in general.
That makes a lot of sense. How would you say, or what would your goal be for the impact you can make on the community within your business?
So I think it would just be a couple of things. One is I would like to create more jobs, right? More opportunities. I know as a single dad, finding childcare can be extremely difficult. However, depending on the scaling and the growth of my business, the nice thing about my business is you can do it from home. So if I'm able to open up other opportunities for people to just be able to spend time with their family instead of having to work all the time and then missing out that time, that would be a big one. And then just supporting and encouraging small businesses because what I'm doing from an HR standpoint is not only compliance, but it's strategy. And if we're able to implement these things sooner, then the likelihood of them growing and scaling and not failing is a lot higher. So again, it's really just supporting that small business community and their
I
families.
love that. I think that's also really important. I think a lot of people don't always appreciate the value that they have in the community building. Okay, so totally different, something more fun. What is your go-to tea or coffee order for a busy day?
So today's National Coffee Day, funny enough. Yeah,
What?
Yeah, surprise.
Oh my gosh, I should know that considering I manage a coffee shop.
You should know. But so I will say during the fall, I love pumpkin spice. Like on my birthday,
Okay.
Starbucks drops their pumpkin. My birthday is right at the end of August, and pumpkin spice always
They're
drops on
doing
my
it for
birthday.
you.
For me
Yes.
personally. So I would say pumpkin spice. I like maple. I like hazelnut, but I like lattes, lots of espresso, cold brew, just anything with caffeine. I'm there.
Okay, you're there. You're on the road to success.
I am.
What is something fun you like to do to recharge or to kind of get yourself reset or just to lay back?
Yeah, so it's again, being a business owner and just being busy in general, it's very easy to get caught up and to not take that break. But I would say time with my fiance, time with my son, time with my church. I like to sing, just being out and experiencing life. I think too many people just go by day and just stay at home or don't do anything. But I would just say again, spending time with my loved ones and then just experiencing and doing new things.
Okay, awesome. Do you have a hidden talent that someone would not expect to know about you?
I would probably say singing would be. I did American Idol and The Voice back in the
Oh, how
day.
fun!
I had a full ride to sing. I'm also a published author. So normally people, when they see me again and 6'7" Army veteran, they're not like, oh, that dude sings. That's just not a thing that I get. So I'd probably say the singing thing for
That's
sure.
really cool. What kind of things, like what kind of songs do you like to sing?
So my go-to is My Way by Frank Sinatra. I'm more of a
Okay, that's a good
Broadway
one.
musical trained singer. Those slower, more like deep, soulful sounds are normally my go-tos.
Well, then I have to ask, what's your favorite musical?
Oh, I knew you were gonna do that. Les Mis, hands down.
Ah, that's such a good one. I love that one a lot.
It is.
That's
It
yeah,
is.
that's that one just like hits in a different way than other musicals do. I was a huge theater kid, and I think people lack seeing the value in musical theater and just like the
I
dedication to it.
agree.
My mom and I went and saw Chorus Line last week. They were doing the 100-year anniversary of the Greenville Theater, and she was like, "I didn't realize that there's so much that goes into people that are wanting to get a placement in a show." I was like, "Mom, do you not remember when I used to do this?" And she's like, "Well, you always got it." And I was like, "Not always. I didn't always get it." She's like, "Oh, I
Yeah,
guess I just knew about the ones you got." And I was like, "Yeah, that's how it
yeah,
goes in theater
exact
business." So then,
exactly.
if you could have dinner with any entrepreneur, living or who has passed, who would it be? And then why?
That is such a hard question. So, I think I have to preface this by saying every interaction is an opportunity. And I feel like you can learn something from everyone, regardless of where they are in their life, regardless of what they've done. But I really, really thinking about it, I'd say probably John Maxwell, and that's from a leadership and a faith standpoint. I try and lead from that standpoint. So it's probably just learning from that, seeing the again the thought behind what he does, what he wrote, where he gets his drive, what he does on hard days, what his approach is.
Okay, I can see that. It seems like someone would really resonate with you. So, what's next for the business? Do you have any like new certifications, an expansion, dream goals? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, so I will say I'm up for the running now for Greenville Best.
Okay, that's
Really hoping on
exciting.
that.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. But I've recently got into state and federal procurement
Okay.
because I'm a nationwide firm. And then I mean long term, probably looking to hire in the next year, and then hoping to go international probably in the next 3.
Okay. Very cool. So, within that expansion, what are some things you've been doing to prep for that?
Just doing what I do for everyone else of trying to streamline processes so that way when I do bring people on and I do grow, I can keep the same standard of conduct and accountability and expectations that I give myself that I'm going to want to make sure is transferred to whomever I hire, moving forward.
Okay. So, how can my viewers and listeners help you? Is there like a specific thing that event coming up or just social media or what are some ways they can help you out?
Yeah, I would say social media is definitely always great. Obviously, anyone who has a need from an HR standpoint, and then also again, so my book is called Never Accept Defeat, and it's a book about how I grew up. It's a memoir. I'm also working on my second book right now called From Trenches to
That's
Triumph.
cute.
So I'm working on more, again, speaking engagements about mental health, about grit, about resiliency, about, growing up, maybe not the best, right? We don't compare, we don't do that. However, I think there's just more of a story to give. So I guess if they're listening, they're like, hey, that sounds like, I know someone who might need to hear that story, then that would be another opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, we don't pick our parents, we don't pick our life. I think a lot of people see successful people and they often think that they got handed life on a silver platter. And I try to explain to people that's what you see is not always how reality works. A lot of people live in rose-colored glasses. which can, I guess, can be sometimes positive because they're like, "Oh, they've always been successful." However, I think that coming from the ground up is a really important part of the process, and I think majority of successful business owners didn't just come from success. They came from nothing a lot of times because they had that grit and the willpower to actually get to the top, and I think that a lot of people lack to see that. So I'm grateful that you're on here talking about it because I think more people need to see that. Is there anything else that you want people to know about People's Advisor? Like, is there anything that you're like, "Ah, this is go-to for my business. You need to know this. I need to say it."
I would just say that everything is tailor owned. Obviously, I took a lot of my military training and implemented that into my business strategy. I know people like military training into HR, that sounds silly, but it's really not. Again, it's very laser focused, it's very tailored. We have a no fail mission. So, like, we're going to figure it out and we're going to get it done, and we're going to get it done right the first time. So, really, I would just say, hey, if you want to learn more about me, about what we do, you want to grab coffee, hop on a call, go to my website, text me, call me, email me, whatever. But again, every single interaction is an opportunity. That's why I'll never say no if someone's like, hey, let's grab.
Amazing. And then for those who are listening and aren't necessarily on social media, what is your website?
So it's www.peopleopsadvisors.com.
Amazing. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here, Michael. I think this is going to make for a great midweek Moxie. And I hope those of you listening have a great rest of your week. Be sure to tune in for my Friday episode. But thank you again to Michael with our PeopleOps Advisor.
Thank you.